Today, we're going to get an update on what happened with pivot counties in the 2024 election. So we're going to spend some time here on Ballotpedia. And before we get to what happened in 2024, we've got to get some background information. So if you're unfamiliar with what a pivot county is, we're going to go back to 2016. Ballotpedia defines them as the counties that voted for Barack Obama 2 times in 2008 and 12, and then flipped and voted for Donald Trump in 2016. So here's the key sentence. Trump won 2,626 counties in 2016, but 206 of those had voted for Barack Obama twice before. So that's the foundation for what a pivot county is, and we're going to go from there. Now, there's always more you can read, but I'm going to just hit the highlights. Of those 206 counties, they're located in 34 states. Iowa has the most with 31. And it also notes that the state with the highest percentage of pivot counties was actually Maine. 50% of those counties fall into that category. That's a lot. And what percent of the popular vote is in these 206 counties? Well, we've got 7.5 million votes, or 5.5%. So more than 1 in 20 voters lives in these counties. So 8 years ago, this data was a lot more significant. Now that 2 elections have passed since, it's kind of faded in importance. But here's the map that highlights every one of those 206 counties. Most of these are in places you're going to be familiar with. We're talking about the Rust Belt and then all the way up through Maine. Some people might underestimate Maine in that 2nd congressional district, how much it's actually moved toward Trump. And even though Pennsylvania gets a lot of attention as a purple state, there's actually not too many pivot counties located in that state. There's going to be a lot more in New York. But you could find them in other places such as Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. And if you go down here, this shows you the table of all the counties. The states with the most are going to be Iowa and Wisconsin. Almost a third of the counties in these states fall into that category. But if you do sort by the percentage of pivot counties, then again, we've got Maine at 50%. That's 8 out of just 16 counties in total. You've even got Delaware on here that had 1 out of 3. So that's where we're going to start at. We've got 206 counties. They were a big fan of Barack Obama. 2 times they supported him. But for various reasons, they decided to go for Trump in 16. But what happened to those 206 counties in 2020? Well, we've got it right here. And to make it simple, I'm going to highlight it. Of the 206, Trump won 181, but Biden flipped 25 of them back. They call those counties boomerang pivot counties. And it says Trump's median margin of victory was 13.2 percentage points in those 181 counties, while Biden's median was 3.4% in the 25 counties that he won. Again, there's going to be a lot more stats here. You can take a look at them if you'd like. All these links will be down below in the description. But a key thing to point out here, in those 181 counties that Trump won, is the average population is way lower than the 25 Biden flipped back. It's only about 63,000 in the ones Trump won. Now, he carried those by wider margins, but the ones that Biden captured were 186,800 people on average. So Biden carried way less of those counties, but the ones he did win had more weight to them because they had more people. If we go down here and take a look at the map, we've got the same map we just took a look at a minute ago, except the 25 counties this time that Biden flipped back are going to be in blue. The remaining 181 in red are the ones that Trump held on to. And then down here, we've again got a table about the average and the median margin of victory. So then there's more tables and more data here down below if you want to again look more into this. But we're going to keep it moving even further. We want to get to the most recent election for the most current data. So let's jump ahead 4 more years to 2024. So here we are, keeping in mind those initial 206 pivot counties that we started with in 2016. To keep in mind, that's also including those 25 boomerang counties that Biden won in 2020. We've got Trump winning 197 of them. So Trump at 197 out of 206. And his average margin of victory in those counties is 18.4%. Now what about Kamala Harris? Well, 206 minus 197. That's going to equal 9 pivot counties. And her average margin of victory in those was 2.3. That's much lower. So that means Trump recaptured 16 of those counties Biden had won in 2020 that he had won previously in 2016. And in total, it says Trump won 181 pivot counties in all 3 of his presidential runs, and won 177 of them by a larger margin in 2024 than he did in 2020. So a lot of people by now already know that Harris did not flip a single county in 2024 that Trump had won in 2020. And it also says Harris won by a smaller margin then Biden in 7 of the 9 pivot counties they each won. And we've got overall pivot counties favored Trump by an additional 4.2 percentage points on average over non-pivot counties in 2024. So that's what we've got for the highlights. Let's go down here. And this kind of sums up what we just read above. But what about the margin of victory? Well, we could kind of work our way backwards here on this table. Again, starting at those 206 original counties. Retroactively, going back to 2008, Barack Obama won those by an average of 12.3 or a median of 11.9. In 12, it dipped a little bit to an 8.2 average and a 7.3 mean. Then the big flip happened in 2016, creating those 206 pivot counties. All of a sudden, they're putting up margins close to what Obama did right back here just 8 years earlier in 2008. Trump won them with an average of 11.5 and a median of 9.4. Then of the 25 Biden flipped in 2020, his average in those was 3.3 or a 3.4 median. In the ones Trump won, he was up there at 14.1 and a 13.2 median. That's even higher than what Obama got right below here. Then in 2024, in these 9 of the 25 counties that Biden flipped back in 2020, Harris's average margin of victory was 2.3 and a median at 1.9. Meanwhile, Trump's red counties got even redder, an average of 18.4 and a median of 17.3. So that kind of sums up what happened in these counties in 24. And it does seem like Trump did a lot of electoral damage across the country. Now let's go down to the next table. It says that the table below highlights the counties that the 2024 candidates won by a smaller margin than the 2020 candidate of the same party. So that sounds good, but there is one issue with this table. There's a mistake in the very first county. If we start here in Manatee County, Michigan, in 2016, Trump won it by 15.3. In 2020, he sank very slightly to 15.1. Then it shows he sank even further in 24, down to 13.8. The only problem is that's actually a mistake. The proof here is going to be on Wikipedia. Here's Manatee County, Michigan. The data prior to 2024 is correct. However, in 2024, Harris went down to 41.2 and Trump went up to 57.1. Trump's margin actually did increase in this county, so what we've got in Ballotpedia is a typo. Once in a while, you're going to see that from any source, myself included. It's never fun to see. The only problem is I wish they would have actually corrected it. Now, there could be another mistake on here, but I did check several of the other counties and it all checked out. And even so, that county was not at all competitive in 24. If you're looking for any kind of a purple county or maybe a future bellwether, I would look at these counties that are under 2% margins either way. We've got a few of them on here. We've got 2 for Trump, and then we've got several more here for Harris. The most dramatic one here is going to be Kent County, Rhode Island. Obama won that with 17.7 and 12. Now Harris is all the way down to just 1.9. That is some substantial movement in just 12 years. And then we come down here to the map. Again, it's going to be the same 206 counties that we started with. And we've got 181 across 31 states that Trump won in all 3 elections. Now we've got 16 pivot counties across 12 states that voted for Trump in 16, flipped for Biden in 20, then flipped back for Trump in 24. And finally, it's going to be 9 pivot counties across 8 states that voted for Trump in 16, then Biden in 20, and then stuck with Harris in 24. On the map, those counties are obviously going to be shaded in blue. There's only 9 of them, so you might not be able to see them as easily as a lot of these red counties. So let's wind it down here. Let's go down to this table. We've got the comparison of pivot and non-pivot counties in 24. Now this table shows Trump had a much wider margin of victory in the pivot counties. It's showing an 11-point gap here. Now the big issue with this table is it's actually not totally current. They updated this on November 8th as of 3 p.m. Eastern. Now since then, more votes have come in. Trump's popular vote margin has gone down to 1.5. On this table, they have it at 3%. So that could be what's behind that mistake we saw earlier in Michigan. That's also why I don't want to spend too much time going over each individual county. However, if you want to do so right here, here's the table of the full 206 counties, and it has all 5 of the previous presidential elections and the margin in each county. So because some of this data might not be totally current, the main focus is going to be on those initial 206 pivot counties. So that's it. That's a quick overview of what happened to the pivot counties in 2024. I wish the data was even more current, but that's what we've got here on Ballotpedia. Most of it's going to be pretty good, so let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the pivot county data for 2024? Are you surprised that Harris did not flip a single county back? And can you use any of this data to predict anything that's going to happen in the future? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.